Am I the a-hole for asking my boyfriend's sister to reimburse us for the damages she caused after she threw a party in our apartment? For context, I am in a relationship with an amazing man. I met his family and his family have met me too, and got along apart from his little sister Jess. She never liked me once I stepped into their house. It was like she was trying to find every single fault in me, whether my clothes, which she would sometimes say, "You look like a cheap woman showing that much cleavage," or stating, "You look like a nun all covered up." But regardless, I always try to make friends with her, whether it was baking her favorite cookies, buying cinema tickets for her to watch a movie, etc. I never wanted to have a bad relationship with my boyfriend's sister. A few months passed by, and honestly, my relationship with Jess slightly improved. There were no snarky comments about me or my clothing. Everything was chill, until my boyfriend and I had a 3-day trip and were leaving our shared apartment and needed a house sitter to take care of our plants and our 3 dogs, and Jess volunteered. I was very hesitant, but my boyfriend assured me maybe she was trying to get in my good books. I left her my keys to the apartment since I didn't have a pair, and it was honestly just a 3-day trip. Fast forward 3 days later, we called Jess to inform her we're coming back, but she doesn't answer the phone. So later on, we're knocking on the door. When there's no answer for about 10 minutes, I try calling Jess repeatedly but still no answer. After a while, Jess opens the door. I was honestly relieved as we thought something bad happened. I tried answering, but she blocked me as I politely tell her to move away, before I pushed past her to see our apartment in ruins. Broken cups, plates, glass, and even a shattered wine bottle. Even a few painting broken. But thankfully, it was only the sitting room and the dining area. Jess then starts apologizing, saying she just had a few friends over, who brought a few friends with them, and this mess happened. And I was having none of it, as maybe this was some kind of sick prank. I tell her I don't care how this all happened, but she would have to reimburse us for all the damages. Thankfully, my boyfriend supported me. Jess broke down in tears. I did feel bad for her, but actions do have consequences. She then starts shouting at me, saying our relationship was getting better, and I messed it up, in which I told her, "You're the only one who messed it up, not me." She did leave a few minutes later, but now my messages are flooding, with some of her family members telling me to forgive her, and it was a mistake and I am being too harsh on her, but I'm not budging. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. Have you taken pictures? If you haven't, do so if possible. If it escalates, then you have proof to show the police. I haven't taken any pictures. Hopefully, it doesn't get to a point that I have to inform the police. I hope it doesn't either. I would take pictures for insurance purposes, and if any family member says anything, you can offer to show them the damage. I can guarantee they would be angry if she did that at their home. Yes. Because it's likely she's telling them things like it's just a little messy and are blowing it out of proportion. Pictures will tell the real story. Document everything. Not stay home. It isn't a matter of forgiving her, and you could tell her flying monkeys that you do forgive her, though you are not obligated to do so. You just want her to take responsibility and reimburse you for the damage. I tell her I don't care how this all happened, but she would have to reimburse us for all the damages. This is a perfectly reasonable stance. Thus, forgiveness is not the same thing as released from consequences of your actions. Additionally, you can forgive someone but still not trust them. Not stay all OP. Be polite and civil with her, but keep her at arm's length. Your significant other needs to shut her down too. Her comments on your appearance need to stay in her mouth. When someone sends their flying monkeys in an argument, it's because they know they were wrong. You are not a-hole, but Jess definitely is. So she damaged your place and didn't even have the decency to clean it up. And now you just have to forgive this behavior? After she reimbursed the damages, she's forgiven. If she took accountability for her actions and you continued to hate her, they could say these kinds of things, but not now. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take in a single mother and her children? I own a 3-bed, 2-bath, and I use one room for work/guest room and one room to sleep in. I wanted to find a roommate to take the last room I wasn't using, and they would have their own bathroom. I posted a bedroom for $900 looking for a single female roommate and got a lot of interest. I also told some of my friends about wanting to find a roommate because I would rather live with someone I already know. One of my friends gave my number to a friend who was a single mother of 3 kids. She asked to see the place without telling me she had children, and I let her come to look at the place. She brought her 3 kids with her to see the place, and I told her I was looking for a single female, not 4 people. She got angry and accused me of discriminating against her and threatens to get her lawyer involved. I know I'm not allowed to have preferences for roommate, and only full unit rentals are not allowed to discriminate against children. I told her she could, but the law was in my favor and told her I wasn't interested in living with her children, especially since the rental was for 1 room, so where would they sleep? She told me I should give up the room I work in to her 2 oldest, and I told her nope, that's not definitely going to work, and kicked her out. She called me again 2 days later and begged me to let her and her children stay for a month or 2, since her landlord was kicking her out at the end of the month and her children would stay at their grandma's, so I just had to take her in. I heard horror stories about tenants refusing to leave and evictions taking forever, so I told her I had already found a tenant. This isn't a lie. I had someone I thought was a good fit, but they wanted to move in the next month, June, instead of May, which would have been better for me. But in the end, I decided to go with her. But I didn't believe she would leave her kids and sneak them in as soon as she moved in. My friend called me up and told me she was desperate and couldn't afford a higher rent elsewhere and I should take her in as an act of kindness. I have heard lots of horror stories about bad roommates, so I didn't want to risk it. But am I the a-hole for not wanting to take that risk? Not the a-hole. You searched for 1 female and 1 room. She demands 2, I guess for the same rent, and wants to move in with 4. Hell no. And threatens to call a lawyer when Opie understandably tells her no. Why is she being evicted? I see that as a big red flag. If she can't afford a higher rent, then how will she afford a lawyer to sue? Right? I'm getting evicted, but I'm gonna call a lawyer on you. I'd laugh. Definitely a toothless threat. Your friend should take this person in if they are so concerned. To misrepresent the situation entirely by bringing 3 children, unannounced, then expecting you to hand over your home office is not realistic. It's unfortunate, but if the grandparents can take the kids, the mom should be with them. I think you are being wise and cautious. Not stay home. Not stay home. Your intuition and feelings seem to be spot on. She's already a pain in the neck, and she hasn't even moved in. She hasn't shown any regard for you from the beginning, and getting rid of her will be difficult. With a 10-foot pole, don't approach her. She's a walking, talking, entitlement red flag. Not stay home. Considering the immediate yelling and lawyer threats, she's never gonna leave. It'll be hell. Do not give in. Not stay home. Look, not everyone wants to hear it, but an act of kindness shouldn't be coerced. If you weren't willing to live with a single mom and her 3 kids, you weren't willing to, and that is okay. This situation is only bolstered by her initial entitlement to your space, suggesting you give her a second room for her kids she didn't mention? Come on. And lack of respect for your desires. And why doesn't the friend take them in out of an act of kindness? Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not putting my girlfriend's name on her property? Me 23 male and my girlfriend 24 female have been together for almost 7 years. We live with our parents and we are planning to live together. We found a small apartment in a nice part of the city that is very affordable, but we haven't made our decision yet. The issue began when we were talking about logistics, and she said that she can't wait to finally have something under her name. Now the thing is that I earn a lot more than her. Still, I'm not wealthy by any means, and we agreed that I would be the one paying for the mortgage and part of everything else, while she only pays part of the bills and part of the food and she saves up some money. So I told her that since I'm the one that is going to pay for the apartment, I only feel comfortable putting the apartment under my name. She blew up at me calling me selfish, that I'm already thinking about breaking up and that I want to leave her with nothing. I told her that it isn't true, that I want to grow old with her and love her until the day I die and beyond, but that a lot of people felt that way and they still ended up breaking up, and I just wanted to look after myself. I told her we are not married yet and I obviously would not expect her to give me part of her savings if we part ways. So it is not fair to expect me to give her part of the apartment that I would be paying for if we part ways. She called me an a-hole and now is not talking to me to fix things up. At this point, I'm just considering getting the apartment anyway for myself. And if she wants to stay with me, she would be welcome to move in. So am I the a-hole? Edit. I'd like to answer to a couple of questions. 1. How much would you both contribute? I would have to give a down payment of $8,000, which is a lot in my country. Most people can only save that amount by working at least 2 years and not spending any of their earnings. Also, I would be paying around $500 to $550 per month on the mortgage, food, and bills. She would be paying around $80 to $120 in food, internet, and transportation. She has to commute and I work from home. 2. How would a chore split? Well, our intention is to split everything 50-50, but since she is outside working most of the day, I would be the one cleaning and cooking most of the time. She could do everything on the weekends, but that would be tiring for her since she doesn't have that much free time. 3. Do you plan to marry her and have kids and add her to the deed? I'm personally not a fan of marriage, but I have talked about it with her, and I decided that if I ever get married, I wanted to be with her. I don't do it yet because of money. I want to purchase the apartment and have stability, and because I want to see what it's like to live with her first. We don't want kids. I got a vasectomy last year and she was on board with it. However, she has mentioned things like I'd be a great father or that she would like to experience what it's like to be a mother. And I told her that if she feels that way, we must break up because I don't want to waste her time and have her resent me for that. She said she was fine with it and that they were just passing thoughts. If we get married, I could add her to the deed or just sell the apartment and buy a new one for both of us where we both contribute. Whatever we discuss in the future. Thank you for all your comments and insights. It helped a lot in thinking things through. Now for the comments. Not stay home. You're buying it and paying for everything. You're not married. You can change the deed if you do get married. Not sure what country OP is in, but in mine, de facto relationships after a certain time are legally as good as married ones. 7 years is more than enough. Not stay home. This is business. It's unwise to put someone's name on the deed when that person has not invested in the property. If you get married and choose to continue living in the apartment, you can always add her name to the deed then. But as it stands, you are taking 100% of the financial risk. Completely agree. I'd want to add that the girlfriend should view it this way as well. When my husband, then boyfriend of 6 years, bought our home, I insisted on having a lease agreement. It protected me from being homeless in the event we broke up. I would have 90 days to move out and keep any assets I supplied to the household, and clearly outlined our financial responsibilities. I didn't pay rent, but it called out which bills I agreed to cover. Not stay home and good call. You're not married, and she's not paying the mortgage. There is no reason for her name to be on the deed, and the fact she got this upset over, it makes it sound like your instinct was accurate. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for giving my brother-in-law and his handicapped daughter a sad time to move out? I'll preface this by saying that my brother-in-law, 43, lost his apartment and job, and he and his handicapped 13-year-old daughter had no place to live. My husband took them in 4 months ago. Brother-in-law is your typical tiny, 5'4" man. He hates fat people, to the point he wouldn't tip waitresses he considered fat. He is obsessed with body image so much it put his daughter in a wheelchair because of his constant dogging about every meal he saw her put in her mouth. He's her main caretaker but been doing it wrong, so I help, but he tells me off. I'm a bit on the heavy side. Not obese though, and it takes every chance to talk me into losing weight. He also trashes the place, then tells me to clean to motivate me to burn fats. He also leaves adult magazines on the kitchen counter, and my toddler sees them. He also calls me names like fatso or tell my husband, "Dude, your wife's beard scares the heck out of me," whenever I pick a fight with him about leaving his daughter without feeding. Some days ago, he was out all day and didn't feed his daughter. He gives her specific foods, not that a doctor recommends it. The food ran out and he said he was going out to buy some but didn't return. She literally begged me to feed her anything, so I made her a sandwich with my son. Her father returned and went off on me saying I had no business feeding his daughter junk. It was homemade, and cussed me out, then accused me of trying to fatten her up and become a pig like me. I had enough, and yelled at him that his daughter wasn't a dog, then told him he had X time to pack and leave. He told my husband and he started arguing with me. I said I could not take any more humiliation in my own home. He said it was appalling and loathsome that I want his brother and handicapped knees on the street. He told me to go apologize and really do better, but I refused, and things have been tense since then. Info, why have you not reported him to the social services? He is mistreating his daughter. I have threatened him at some point, seeing how he essentially treats his daughter as a dog. My husband got mad at me, and he threatened to divorce me if I try to tell someone. You could have solved this by calling child services at the same time you file for divorce. That child needs to be protected. If you don't call child services, you are absolutely the a-hole here. Not the a-hole. Also, this is more of a husband problem. Your husband doesn't seem to care at all that his brother straight up is a bully to his wife and starves his niece. I would call CPS on your brother-in-law. Call CPS. Don't let her leave with him. Kick him out but keep her there. I know she's not yours, but you'd literally be saving her life. Not stay home. Call CPS and kick brother-in-law out. Keep the daughter. If the husband goes, so be it. Why would you be with someone who supports and enables child mistreatment? You and she deserve so much better. Am I the a-hole for exposing my son's future stepdad and causing my son to resent him? My son is 17 and I co-parent with my ex-wife. And I'm not married nor I am seeing anyone. I'm just focusing on work and providing for my son. My ex-wife, however, so far dated 3 guys who are just not nice. The third one, Anthony or Tony, is a somewhat decent guy, but can act self-centered and is selfish in a lot of ways. He stated that he's not interested in being in a competition to win my son over, and just wanted to be a positive role model in his life. I said, why not, as long as it's bringing positive influence. I work in a highly demanding job, and so I'm mostly absent from holidays, weekends, birthdays, etc. It's unfortunate, but my son understands and we're close enough spiritually, so that makes up for the distance. His birthday was days ago. I couldn't attend, but I already sent him a pretty cool, a bit expensive, wristwatch, and it was supposed to arrive 2 days before his birthday. I called my son to ask if he received it yet, and he said no. I was so confused that I went to my ex-wife's house to inquire about this matter. She said they didn't receive anything, and Tony said the store must have gotten the wrong address, and then suggested I just buy another watch from another store if I had no time and had work to take care of. I checked with the online store from which I bought the watch, and they assured me that the watch was received, and showed me proof which was a signature allegedly from my ex's brother. My ex's brother swore he didn't receive anything, nor was at his sister's house at the time. So I had a talk with the person who delivered the watch, and he described the guy at 5'4", with short hair and clean-shaven face, wearing red t-shirt who said he was my ex's brother. I figured it was actually Tony, so I told my ex and she and him denied it. I demanded to check the front door cam, and there he was, taking the watch and re-entering the house. My ex and my son were shocked. I mumbled, so much for a positive role model. Tony started stuttering, then said he was just keeping it for my son till his birthday. My son said he saw him wearing a new watch when going out, but couldn't outright confront him, and Tony obviously wasn't planning on giving it. I said he was planning to steal my gift for my son, and he swore this wasn't the case, but my son said he won't speak to him anymore. My ex said I just drove a wedge between my son and his stepdad by justly accusing him of stealing the watch. It now made my son hate him when I should have discussed this privately. I said my son deserves to know what his future stepdad did, and that he should have given the watch to my son the minute he received it. They still insisted he was just keeping it. I later learned my son no longer wanted to spend his birthday with his stepdad and went to his grandparents to celebrate. My ex was livid, saying Tony got excluded from our son's birthday, and it's because of me, and demanded I clear the confusion. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. How pathetic of a man to steal a birthday gift from a teenager. Even more pathetic that the mom is so desperate for a man that she let him get away with it and blamed Opie. The mom is so delusional that she really believed this lie Tony told about keeping the son's watch to give him later. Like, who are you to keep the gift? Who are you to decide when your stepson gets his gift from his father? What a weirdo. Got caught stealing, and now the ex-wife blames the father for exposing her loser new husband? Not Dale. The guy stole your son's gift for himself. You did not drive a wedge between him and your son. He did that all by himself. Did you really think this would not get out? Your wife seems to be deep in denial if she really believes the story that her boyfriend was just keeping it for him, especially since you already told your son about the gift. The guy got caught in a series of repeated lies, including forging his brother's signature and lying it had gotten delivered. This wedge between him and your son is of his own making, because he is a thief. Yep. If he had been genuinely just keeping it for the son, he had like half a dozen opportunities to say, "Oh hey, yep, don't worry, I've got it." And he wouldn't have been wearing it. Even if he opened it, which he shouldn't have worn it. It was probably addressed to the son, so he not only opened it, he kept it and wore it. This dude deserves no consideration in trying to preserve his image to the son. He's a thief and a liar. They insisted he was just keeping it. Did you ask to see it? If it was in the original packaging and it opened, they might have a case. If not, then they can't really deny they were just keeping it for your son. And if they were doing that, what's with the lying and stuff? Why wouldn't he just let you know he was holding on to it till your birthday? In addition, Tony said the store must have gotten the wrong address and suggested I just buy another watch from another store. Why would he suggest you buy another one if he was just holding on to it? I can't believe your ex is in so much denial about all these obvious things that shows that Tony is just a lying thief. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister it's not my fault she didn't want for her kids to be happy about her remarrying? My sister got married 2 weeks ago today. She lost her first husband 18 months ago to cancer. They had my nephew Tyler 11 and my niece Kaylee 10 together. Tyler and Kaylee have been lost since their dad died, and became even more lost when they learned their mom was dating again 9 months later. My sister did a lot of grieving before her late husband died, so nobody was too surprised when she was ready to find someone fast. We all kinda thought she might wait longer to talk marriage though. But after 4 months, she was engaged, and the kids were not okay. They have cried on my shoulder several times because they don't get how their mom could get married again, and they don't get what they're supposed to like about the new guy. My nephew even said he doesn't get how he's supposed to love him and think of him as a new dad, or even a new member of the family, when their family was so good before, and now they'll never have a good family again. I have reassured them the best I can. My sister and I lost our brother years ago, and I know the scars a loss leaves. But since I never lost a parent, it's hard. I was in charge of the kids at my sister's wedding, and it was rough. Both of them walked away from the ceremony to stand outside and cry, and my sister was pissed at me about it because I was supposed to keep them in the wedding and stop them from making a big deal out of it. But I couldn't make them stop crying. All I could do was comfort them and try to cheer them up somehow, but man, it's hard. Those kids are devastated by the marriage, but I mean they are in so much pain because of it. My sister confronted me a few days after the wedding and told me I should have done more. That I let the kids spoil the day and make a scene because everyone there heard them crying and saw them leave. She said that as her brother, I should have worked to make her day perfect, and that I need to be more supportive of her and help the kids accept the changes and be happy for her and the family. I told her it's not my fault she didn't wait for the kids to be happy about her remarrying, and I don't have a magic wand to make them happy. That they need therapy and time. She called me unsupportive, judgmental of her decision, and said I lacked compassion for her loss, her grief, and her need for adult love. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She has made a new relationship a priority over her kids, them dealing with her grief. The fact that she's a grown-up and did her grieving long before her husband passed away doesn't mean the kids did. There is something seriously wrong with her priorities if she thinks her kids made a scene and caring about having a perfect day, rather than the fact her kids are having such a hard time with everything. What she did has won the game of who's going to the retirement home. I don't understand how someone doesn't get their kids' approval, and if they decide to marry someone. Even my narcissistic mother asked me if there were any grievances first. Not the a-hole. The kids need therapy. She's absolutely prioritizing herself over them, and it's oof. They're gonna resent her and hate her husband in no time. I agree they need therapy to help them cope with everything that's going on, but I hope Opie's family explains to sister that therapy won't necessarily fix their feelings about her relationship or with her and stepdad. The aim should be to get the kids as mentally well, resilient, and stable as possible. But too many AITA posters parents seem to think therapy will be a magic wand to get the kids to accept the new dynamic. I wouldn't even have gone to the wedding. She has the right to get remarried, as you say. She started grieving before her husband died. But getting remarried 18 months later when the kids are still grieving and are vocal about how they're struggling with everything, she's going to be hated by her kids. And as soon as they're going to be able to, they're going to leave and cut ties with her. She could have had adult love and still respected her kids in the time they need to grieve their father. I really don't get people like that. She's mad about them crying for one day, but that's nothing compared to a lifetime of resentment the kids will have for her and her new husband. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my husband out for lying about our baby's gender? My husband, male 31 and I, female 29, are expecting our first child together. We plan to have 3, by the way. Ever since I got pregnant, my husband's been saying he wanted our first child to be a boy. I don't know why. He never cared in the past. It is the type to treat everyone equally. But his reason was that he was the first child, boy, in the family, and so it'd be lovely if we followed the tradition. I didn't take it seriously, because honestly that's ridiculous, but harmless, so why not let him just express his wishes? But later I found out he was telling the family it was going to be a boy, and that he had a hunch and he was 100% certain and positive about it. He kept saying the same thing over and over that I had to tell him to slow down, because even if he didn't know he was going over the top, he was still giving the family false hopes. He promised to stop, but still says he had a strong hunch that I'll see that he was right all along. We found out our baby's gender this past week, and it's a girl. My husband admittedly seemed a bit upset, but he said it's because this was not what he was expecting. He even said he wasn't sure about the ultrasound results, which is a bit much. Anyway, we got home and he stayed on his phone for hours. Then in the evening, I started getting calls from family congratulating us for the baby boy. I felt confused, so I asked my mother-in-law how she found out, and she said my husband made the announcement on his Facebook. I was upset, so I checked his page with my phone and saw it. I wanted to talk to him about his lie, but first I made an announcement on my Facebook and announced that it's a girl, then called my husband out for lying to his entire side of the family. He apparently saw it instantly and came into the room looking angry, asking what I was doing. I asked why I lied to his family about our baby's gender. I decided it was just a temporary lie, till I could slowly get them to think it'll be a girl. I said this was illogical and unfair for our daughter. His phone rang, and he freaked out, demanding I take the post down because his family are beginning to see it and are calling. I refused, but he got more pissed, saying we should be discussing this privately, not calling each other out on social media for everyone to see. He told me to take it down, but not until it takes us down, which he called petty and passive-aggressive. Then he stormed off, saying he won't be answering anyone's calls, after I sent them to harass him with what I posted on my Facebook instead of talking to him privately. Am I the a-hole? Wow. Red flags. Not the a-hole. I hope your child grows up loved. This is incredibly weird behavior. I'm so sorry. I hope your daughter never finds out he acted this way. He may need counseling, honestly. I don't even need to vote. You and literally everyone else in the world knows your husband is being delusional, ridiculous, narcissistic, and completely unreasonable. My hopes for him as a father are not high, and this is a huge red flag for your relationship. But his first reason was that he was the first child, boy, in the family, and so it'd be lovely if we followed the tradition. Someone should have explained to him that's not how genetics work. Not the a-hole. He's acting like a child on so many levels here. Openly expressing disappointment about his unborn baby sex, setting his family up with false expectations, going behind your back, doubling down on his first silly lie, getting mad at you for telling the truth. He's got a long way to go in learning to be an adult, let alone a husband or father. Husband goes behind OP's back to lie to his entire family, and probably a bunch of other people. Also, husband, I can't believe you'd go behind my back. He also posted on social media, but doesn't want it all in social media. Her husband is giving me a headache. Last story. Am I the a-hole for immediately leaving home when my parents lied to me? My brother Aiden, 20 male, and I, 22 female, have not spoken to each other in over 5 years. These years of silence from his end was because, as my father quotes, I kept making fun of him. Tardiness for school, spending choices, disorganized planning, etc. This is very biased, because it is from my point of view, but it doesn't take away the fact that I still hurt him, and it was my fault. However, I don't think it's fair to say that I was the sole contributor to this estranged relationship. There have been many instances where Aiden has acted out, and said/done some hurtful things to me as well, My short height, body hair, driving skills. I have accepted my part in that I was a terrible person and older sister, so I tried to reach out several times within those 5 years to reconcile, but Aiden continued to ignore me, which is understandable. Since then, I left things as they were and tried to move forward with my own life. For the past 2 years, I usually drive home frequently from college to visit, but I finally realized the reason I was unhappy coming home was because 1, the lingering tension and unresolved conflict with Aiden made things difficult, and 2, I was still expected to clean up after him despite the fact that there was no sense of common decency from him towards me, even if I truly deserved it. Early this school year, I vocalized my displeasure with my parents, that if Aiden came home to visit from college, I would not be doing so. It was insulting to me that letting Aiden piggyback off the housework I did felt like I had no self-respect for myself, especially when he has chosen to no longer speak to me and would resort to glaring/sneering instead. So either we visited home separately, or if we both came home together, I would not help around the house for the duration that he was staying. I was firm in my stance, so my parents seemed to leave me be. Come this weekend, about a month and a half into the semester, I first called prior to confirm I would be visiting before I drove up. Just 15 minutes after bringing in my belongings, Aiden comes out of your room with plates of food and drops them in the sink, not before rolling his eyes at me and going back in. A rough back and forth occurred. My parents told me I was being a selfish coward, and that I needed to learn to deal with living near each other instead of breaking the family apart. I countered that Aiden and I never resolved our personal issues, and I was no longer willing to live near someone who wasn't willing to give me the bare minimum. I gathered my things and immediately drove back to my apartment, ignoring calls and voicemails. So guys, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but your parents aren't better than your brother. Even worse. They let your relationship become that bad as teenagers, and now disrespect your stance and wishes. Means they disrespect you as a person, and this can't be fixed by an apology. Now they blame you for the situation they enabled over years. They sound like a complete parental failure. Sorry. Somehow I can see who's the favorite child. Not the a-hole. But your parents are for letting their children's relationship get to the point where they weren't speaking even at age 15 and 17. You needed family therapy about a decade ago, and they were remiss for not getting on it. It sounds like you both made fun of one another in a generalized sibling way. Aiden decided to be done with you forever, and your parents are enforcing sexist chore expectations on you in his favor, despite the fact he's trying to pretend you don't exist. I wouldn't blame you for not going home when he's there, even if he were speaking to you, if you were expected to clean up after a 20-year-old man. They have hands and stuff, usually. He's a 20-year-old male. I guess his hands are tired from jerking off all day. Hope he's definitely not the a-hole, though. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for being upset that my older sister told my mom about her pregnancy and planned for termination at my wedding rehearsal dinner? I got married last weekend and have been waiting to post this in case my feelings subsided, but I'm still pretty upset. Last Friday at my rehearsal dinner, which wasn't even really a rehearsal dinner, just my family and my in-laws getting dinner together after pre-wedding preparation, girls getting their nails done, men getting beards trimmed and haircuts, etc. My sister asked my parents to go outside with her and apparently told them she was pregnant and planned on getting an abortion. I could tell they were noticeably upset when they came back, but that was common after conversations with my sister because she was a little bit of a wild card. The following day, my wedding day, my mom and sister were very distant and whispering to each other throughout my getting ready, and also spent most of my reception doing the same thing, just this time with my dad. My father missed our father-daughter dance, and none of my family made a toast or any sort of acknowledgement really that I had gotten married. I waited until the end of the reception and asked them what was up. My sister told me she was pregnant and getting an abortion on the 20th. I responded negatively and got angry that she told our parents this at my wedding, and then got angry at my parents for ignoring me my whole wedding, missing our dance and not getting any photos together. I got my husband and we left, and I got calls and texts saying I was being incredibly selfish and that my sister needed their support. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She could have asked for support the day after your wedding. She sounds very selfish. Not the a-hole. None of this could wait 48 hours? Of course not, because then everyone would be paying attention to you and not her. Not the a-hole. She clearly pulled focus from your big day. I am unclear as to why your father missed the dance. Was he involved as well? Congratulations on your wedding. Yes, at my reception. They were nowhere to be found pretty much the entire time. That sucks. Is your sister always like that? Hugging the spotlight? Usually, yes, but my parents make it very easy. Not the a-hole. Being pregnant isn't an emergency. She could have waited to tell them. Your parents are a-holes too, because they should have shut that down. Wow, that's a lot to work out. Let's enjoy the weekend and your sister's wedding. Can you come for dinner Sunday night and we can talk? Your dad missed the father-daughter dance. Freaking ouch. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my niece host her wedding at my castle? 28 years ago, my wife and I combined our savings, most of which came from inheritance after my father's passing, and bought our castle in southern Europe. It was actually a derelict farmhouse with some land, but it has a small turret, so our families always referred to it as the castle. My wife and I decided we'd rather have a small, basic house in our home country and focus our time and resources readying the castle for us to retire in and for our children to enjoy. It took years, but around the time our eldest was born, it was finally finished. It's not massive, 5 bedrooms and a small pool in the gardens, but it is our paradise. We've always allowed our families and friends to use it whenever they please, and have spent every summer vacation staying there with our children. Our only stipulation when people stay there is that the master bedroom is off limits. It takes up most of the 3rd floor, with the remaining bedrooms on the 2nd floor. A lot of my and my wife's belongings are in there, and it's also the room we have shared together for over 20 years. Recently, my niece got engaged and held an engagement party on Zoom at the weekend. When asked what ideas they had so far, she excitedly told me they'd actually been planning to ask us if they could hold a wedding at the castle. I was a bit taken aback, but didn't want to outright refuse. I joked it would have to be a rather small wedding, since they'd struggled to fit more than 25 people in the gardens. She gushed that she'd already thought it through, and they'd put up canopies in the field nearby. We don't own that land, and if all the guests stayed in hotels in the town, she would arrange transportation for us all to get to the villa. My wife and I bit our tongues, not wanting to make a fuss during their engagement celebration. But later, when my niece texted me to repeat what she'd said, I asked her to clarify the sleeping arrangements, and after some back and forth, it came to light. She plans to use the master bedroom as a bridal suite, and for the wedding party to have the remaining rooms. My wife, children, and I would have to stay elsewhere. I slept on my decision and spoke with my wife. On Sunday, I responded and politely refused, saying it's too small, and we aren't comfortable having anyone in our room. Both she and my sister blew up at me, telling me I was ruining her wedding and she'd always dreamed of marrying at the castle. My sister even said since I used my inheritance, it's family property, which is obviously ridiculous. Added to add, when we texted her on Sunday, we offered a compromise. No master bedroom, and either get permission/insurances to use the fields, or reduce guest count to 25. We even offered to host a small rehearsal too, but she rejected the offers. That is when we outright refused. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Do you know what your sister bought with her part of the inheritance? If so, good news, it's yours now. Be sure to let her know. Sorry, I missed the sarcasm. I'm a bit tense just now. Yeah, I shut her down pretty quickly in that regard. Well, yes, we've let them use our property freely over the years. That doesn't mean they own it. I agree. Not the a-hole. You offered a compromise, but she refused. This isn't just an extra property that you rent out. It is your second home and where you plan on retiring. Although I don't think it would be the end of the earth to accommodate them, the fact they expect you and your immediate family to rent hotel rooms to attend a wedding in your property is ridiculous. Also, all these plans hinge on her getting access to property that you don't own to host canopies. And not to mention that she will need access to the castle ahead of time to set up all the vendors and do walkthrough. It is a bigger commitment and expense than she realizes. Just an aside, you would also have to get some sort of event insurance policy to cover anyone getting injured or driving drunk or damaging the neighboring property. Something to consider too. Thank you. I hadn't even considered vendors and insurances, but you're completely right. I'm not even sure how you would get that kind of insurance in that area. I think one of the reasons she is planning to use the fields is when the children were younger, we'll let them play there. So I'm not sure if she now takes it for granted we can use that area. But a wedding is very different to 3 kids playing amongst the trees. Not the a-hole. It's your property, and they shouldn't expect your whole family to vacate the property so they can have a wedding in your home. That's incredibly selfish. For the next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to buy a wedding gift for my cousin when I'm the free photographer and not an invited guest? My cousin Leah, 35 female, is getting married next year, COVID permitting, to her longtime boyfriend. I, 25 female, I'm a professional photographer. I'm not an expert in wedding etiquette, so I'm out of my depth here. My cousin and I were never terribly close growing up, given our age difference and geographical separation. We only saw each other once a year growing up. We are the only girls out of 20-plus cousins, so we often got lumped in together, but we are very different people. For example, she comes from a small-town religious background, and when I got my ears pierced at 19, she told me unprompted that if God wanted my ears pierced, He would have made me with more holes in my head. Her comment didn't offend me, but given that I was, and still am queer and agnostic, her level and type of religious conviction didn't help our relationship. A few months ago, I saw her engagement announcement on Facebook, and when invitations to her wedding were sent out, my mom got invited, but I didn't. I wasn't hurt by this at all, given that my cousin and I aren't close. Shortly thereafter, Leah reached out and asked me to be her wedding photographer, shooting everything from the bridal party getting ready, the ceremony, to the reception. She asked how much I would charge, and since I don't like mixing business and family, I told her it would be my wedding gift to her if she was okay with it. Wedding photography often costs upwards of $1,000, so she accepted. I thought this was fair because I will be on duty the whole day and therefore won't be enjoying myself as a guest like the rest of our family. It turns out everyone else was invited. Her venue is 4 hours away, so I will also be covering my own transportation and accommodations. Additionally, it will cost me business since I usually do 1 to 2 photo shoots a week for other clients that won't be possible that week. About a month later, she sent me the link to the wedding registry and told me she was letting family have first dibs and to let my mom know as well. I wasn't sure what to say, so I just replied that I would pass it along. Then a few days ago, my cousin asked me what I was going to pick off her registry for her wedding. I was surprised since we had agreed my photography would be my wedding gift. When I reminded her, she told me that she and her fiancé are really counting on people gifting from their registry for their new house, and that most items are less than $200, so I should just pick something. Before I could respond, she went on Facebook and made a semi-vague post complaining about family being selfish and greedy when she needed support. I'm at loss here. All in all, doing photography for her wedding is going to cost me a couple of grand, and I wasn't even invited. I'm attending as staff. I feel like she's devaluing my work and taking advantage of my generosity, given that we're essentially blood-related acquaintances. Am I the a-hole for insisting that my services as a photographer are my wedding gift to her? Edited to add, to be clear, I don't think I'm the a-hole, but she seems to think so, and my family and people responding to her Facebook post were agreeing with her. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Is the semi-vague post on Facebook pointed enough to identify you? Because if it isn't, I would serenely ignore it because it couldn't possibly be directed at me. My gift is $2,000 of professional photography. If it is pointed enough to identify you, well, personally, I'd rescind the free photography and buy the cheapest item in the registry. Or, more likely as the judgmental a-hole I am, a cheaper version because I can't afford the expensive items cousin chose. Her Facebook post wasn't enough to identify me, so I did leave it alone. When it comes with family, I'd rather disengage than be pulled into their drama. My family is far too big to care about what each of them is saying all of the time. But I definitely like your advice. Lol. Not the a-hole. Aside from the fact that you gave her your skills as a gift and that she knew and accepted thus at the time, the rudeness of asking you what you were selecting off the registry is breathtaking. Did she work her way down the list, calling all the guests who hadn't purchased something yet? I have to admit, part of what shocked me the most was her directly asking me what gift I was getting her. To me, that was beyond rude. And yes, as far as I can tell, even though her wedding is almost a year away, she's calling up family to see what they're buying her. My mother got a similar message. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving sister $70,000 for wedding? I, 32 female, got married 4 years ago, and my 35 male husband and his family are many times over millionaires. My family is just middle class. Our wedding cost around $700,000, paid by him and his parents. Our parents gave me a flat fee of $10,000 for a dress, which they are giving to my sister too. So, my 25 female sister and her 26 male fiancé are lower class. Her 170,000, him 110,000. Student loan debt, interest made it grow crazy. An 18,000 medical debt and 35,000 credit card debt. Well, last night was my sister's birthday dinner, and she announced she was engaged and wanted help paying for her wedding. She gave me a spreadsheet of how much she was going to need for her dream wedding. Anyways, her dream wedding is supposed to cost 100,000, and as her only sister, I need to step up and help her pay for wedding since our parents only gave her 10,000. She said she needs me to give her at least 70,000 since I'm rich now. When I told her I'm not giving her 70,000, she cried and said it isn't fair I get whatever I want. When she realized I wasn't going to budge, she broke down about how I'm just using motherhood to be greedy and lazy. I have twins, 2 years old. I eventually told her I wasn't going to be bullied into giving her 70,000. She's 15 weeks pregnant, hence why she's in a rush to be married right away. When I tried to leave, she just snapped. I'm a bad mother since my mother-in-law stays over often. Anyways, she screamed about how I BDP for the first few months after giving birth wasn't real, and that I only had BDP to cover up I'm a terrible mother, and even worse wife since I wasn't well enough for intercourse for a few months. I told Mom, and Mom told her. I feel bad for her, since I know she's struggling, but I hate her for saying that kind of stuff in front of strangers. My brother, who is usually neutral, says I should forgive her since she's stressed from crippling debt and has 2 kids and third on the way. Her 8-year-old's dad doesn't pay child support. Her 4-year-old's dad pays almost nothing in child support. Families don't help either. Claimed I'm jealous of her since she's younger than me, and that since I'm over 30, my husband is probably cheating on me with the housekeeper and nanny for all I know, since I'm never home. I have helpers twice a week, mostly just to salon with friends and weekly date night. She's mad at our parents because they were more happy for me. They helped for the first 2 months. Our parents didn't want her to keep her kids, since she couldn't provide, so they refused to help with shower or anything else. She thinks I should have let her and her family move in my condo, since it's 3-bedroom, 6 bathrooms. She wanted me to put my kids in husband's office, her kids in my son's, and she and her fiancé go in my daughter's room. They live in small 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. She and her family stay in one room, and my parents stay in the other room. Reason is because world event happened and couldn't make rent. My husband is completely done with her. He said I can forgive her, but he won't. Our parents want to forget. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, but like what? How can your parents give her $10,000 for a dress if they're also broke that they need to share a 2-bedroom apartment? Why would your sister ever even consider planning a $100,000 wedding if she is over $300,000 in debt and can't even support herself? This doesn't make sense. Is your sister just delusional? They downgraded after my sister moved out 3 years ago. Their place is nice, but not made for 4 grown-ups and 2 kids. Not the a-hole. You need to give me at least 70,000 because you're rich now. A good enough reason to not give her any money for her wedding. Not the a-hole. So her reasoning is that you are jealous of her that she has 3 kids by 3 different fathers, has massive credit card debts and student loans, and so you should show how not jealous you are by giving her your condo and 70,000 for her dream wedding. After the horrid things she said about you as a mother, and about your husband cheating on you because you are old, I would never talk to her again. Not the a-hole, but how on earth did your wedding cost 700,000? Wedding costs, from what I remember. Rings were heirlooms but had to be resized, $500. Reception venue, $140,000. Ceremony venue, $30,000. Transportation, $20,000. Photographer, $9,000. Planner, $11,000. Bride and bridesmaids attire, $70,000. Groom and groomsmen attire, $30,000. Entertainment, $150,000. Catering, $90,000. Cake, $3,000. Decor, $17,000. Invitations and favors, $5,000. Honeymoon, $60,000. Bachelor party, $35,000. Bachelorette party, $33,000. Shower, $18,000. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.